Okay, first of all, a brief recap on our previous class. We actually completed our casing node using Nest.js. We implemented all the node routes, the create node, get node, delete node, and all of that. So basically today, we'll first of all make a change to, or let me say some changes to our Nest app, the one we built with plain Node.js. So make some little changes, then we'll move to testing. And under testing, we will learn about unit testing and end-to-end testing using Nest.js and Jest. We'll probably test all of our routes, not all, some of our app routes using Jest. We run some end-to-end testings and then also some unit tests. So without wasting time, let's dive in. So our aims and objectives for today, we don't have really that much, but then we have much to learn. First of all, we integrate TSX in our Nodes app. We remove node mode and TS node. We integrate TSX. And then after that, we test our next app. The first one we build, I mean the nodes, not the one we built with Prisma, not the casing nodes app, meaning the first one we used to learn. We use the first app we used to learn Node.js, sorry, Nest.js. So we use it to learn how to test first. So in our next class, we will test our casing nodes app. We will mock and stop Prisma. It will be a kind of an advanced stuff. So I want us to start with the basic one first, so we get accustomed to testing. Okay, so let's dive in to TSX. So what is TSX? So let's check what TSX is. TSX. And here is TSX simply means TypeScript executes, as you can see. And it's a node enhancement to run TypeScript. So, Node.js only executes JavaScript files. But if you want to execute TypeScript files, either you have to use TSC, that is TypeScript compile, or use TS node, which is a TypeScript node. And there is this package, which is also known as TSX. And there's also a difference between TS node and TSX. So I will leave you to find out by yourself, the differences between TSX and TS node. And here they say for starters, think of TSX as an alias to node and use it the same way. Yes, you can, instead of saying node, then JavaScript file, you just type TSX, TypeScript file, and all of that. So you can look at the Node.js enhancement and all of that, the watch mode. Instead of using node mode and then all of that, or TS node, you just integrate it with TSX and everything will work as expected. They will have TypeScript development workflow. We have compilation here. We have shell scripts. You can go all over all of this and get to understand TSX in depth. But for us, let's just get things running. Let's come back. Okay, where is this? Okay, next casing notes. Okay, so we navigate to our Nest.js. So it says cd10 Nest.js. So we are in the Nest.js folder. Or not Nest.js, cd7 casing notes, cd7 casing notes. Seven casing notes. Okay, so we're in the 7 casing notes directory right now. So let's do an ls. We can see all the folders and files in the 7 casing notes. So first of all, what we want to do is we navigate to these 7 casing notes and then head over to our package.json file. Then we'll do away with you can manually uninstall all of this. You can say npm uninstall node mode, TS node and all of that. Well, I'll just remove it from the packages and then run npm install. So come over here, remove TS node. I will also remove node mon. And what else do we need to remove? I think that's all. Okay, after removing these packages, we'll come over to nodemon. This nodemon JSON, we'll do away with the file. We'll delete nodemon JSON. We'll also come over to what else do we need to delete? Okay, I think that's all. So come over here and we'll do some npm -d tsx. So install it as a development dependency. It's actually only used for development and not production. You can also use it to build your app. For this time around, we're just using it to run a development server. So what do we need to do? So we have tsx installed, version 4.16.2. So what we're going to do is to head over to source folder and in our index.ts file. Okay, not here. I think we have to change our script in our package.json file. So in the script section, we remove this dev. We just say tsx watch. Is it watch? Let's check the docs and see what the specification is. Okay. Let's go to the home screen. We have the watch. Where is the watch mode? Okay, tsx watch, and then we'll see watch source/index ts like this. Okay, so let's clear the terminal and then try to run our application once more. So say npm run dev. Let's see what we've got. tsx watch source index ts file. Wow, and it's great. So our application is actually up and running with tsx. So we don't need to do about configuring node mon, ts node, and then having to do all of those things. We just integrate tsx with just a single command, and our app is up and running. So I actually wanted to share this with you, remove all of those ts node and all of that, because tsx is verified. We just keep watching your app, and if there's any changes in the index.ts file, let's say we save this file, and then tsx will recompile and then restart our application. Okay, so now we are good to go. With tsx, we don't need any gibberish in our application, no complex configurations. And you can come over here, and then save this file like something changed, and tsx will restart your application, as simple as it is. Okay, so this is great. I believe we all have seen the steps we used in setting up tsx. So the dev will have tsx watch source index ts and all of that. So we can come over here. This build file, instead of saying node and ts node esm whatsoever, this will no longer work. So what we will do here, we say tsx execute es build config ts. Okay, so let's stop our application. Let's stop the server, clear the terminal, and then try to build our application. npm run build. Great. And this time around, the application is built with just tsx, a single command, no errors, no warnings, nothing. We've simply built our application using tsx, and this is sweet. Okay, so let's clear the terminal. Now I believe we've seen how we can integrate tsx with our app without ts node, without all of those configurations. So this is great. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. This is just basically how to integrate tsx with our app. No errors, no warnings, just tsx. Okay. So moving on, we have we are done learning about tsx. You can head over to their website and learn more about tsx. This is basically how to integrate tsx with your app. Then moving on, we have testing, and under testing, we'll be learning about unit tests, and then this shouldn't be integration test, it should be end-to-end test. So unit test is basically testing individual components of your application and how making sure they work as intended. But an end-to-end test is basically testing your application, the complete flow of your application. Let's assume a user makes a request to your index route, and then your index route is expected to return an array of nodes. So you will want to test this and ensure that your app is working as intended. And when you visit an index route, those nodes are being returned. So this is where end-to-end tests come in. You make sure you test your app thoroughly to ensure it's working as intended before making it available to users. So right now, this is what we're going to be doing. Actually, going to be testing our app. First of all, I encouraged you to learn about testing, what testing is, what unit tests are, integration tests, end-to-end tests, smoke tests, and also I told you to learn about mocking and what else? Mocking, right? Okay, yeah. So what we're basically going to be doing is we're going to be in our Node app using Node.js. We configured our test using VyTest. But test configurations in NestJS, test in NestJS come pre-configured, so we don't have to configure everything from scratch. And Jest is used as a testing framework, so we don't need to use VyTest. Even though VyTest is faster than Jest, Jest has a broad community coverage than VyTest. So most web frameworks use Jest instead of VyTest. So Jest come pre-bundled and configured with Nest.js. So let's take a look at how this is. When we set up our Nest.js application, if you take a look at the package.json, you will see some packages here. We have Nest in the development dependencies, because testing is all about development and not in production. So in our dev dependencies, you will see Nest.js/testing and all of these things here. So, and you will see type/super test, because there's also super test. You have Nest.js/testing and look at super test. We have TS Jest, because Jest doesn't support TypeScript out of the box. So you have to install TS Jest to enable Jest understand TypeScript and be able to work with TypeScript. I also have TS Loader, TS Node, and all of this. Okay, so everything is pre-configured for us. All we need to do is to hop into controllers and services files and begin to write our test. Okay, so if you come over to your source folder and then navigate to notes, okay, you see here that we have this notes controller spec. I think we should just go ahead and then delete everything inside of this file. We have another file here of node service spec. We should just go ahead and also delete everything inside of this file. Okay, so inside we create another file and then we call this one notes E to E, the spec. Oh, not here. We are not testing this. We are testing Nest.js, basically this one here. Okay, so in here, we will create another file and then call it notes E to E spec TS. So in our notes controller spec, we remove everything. So while we are typing, we'll also be explaining the node service. We have a node service spec TS. I will remove everything inside of here as well. So where should we start from? And what should we start with? Okay, so in this case, we start with the node service spec. We first of all test some of our services, but not all. I will leave some for you to use as exercises and then level up your testing skills. So we test some of our services and then test some of our controllers as well, run some end-to-end tests to ensure our application is working as expected. So first of all, what should we test? We have to configure this file and then make sure these tests, to ensure these tests are running as expected. So first of all, there are some packages we need to import. We will import the test and then the testing module from NestJS testing. Remember, everything is pre-configured. So this will import out of the box. Everything is made available for us. So we say import test from NestJS testing, and then also what? Test module, like this. Okay, now that we have test and test module, what else do we need? We are testing the node service. So we have to also import the node service, service from node.service. Okay, so we have this file. We basically have the node service now. So now we'll group our test. Now let's group this one, describe. So describe will take a name, which can basically be a number or a string, or basically a function. So let's say this, let's call this node, okay, node service. I guess node service is descriptive enough. Node service like this. So inside of this node service, first of all, call some predefined functions from Jest, and they are made available. They are environmental functions, so you don't need to import them. You just have to call them directly. So first of all, say let service, okay, so okay. So now we have, first of all, initialize our node service. I said, so the node service will be of type node service. It's from the node service class. Okay, so okay, Timothy, the TS, this is tsx.is. Okay, I've dropped it for you in the chat. Okay, so now that we've declared our service, we say before each. This function is from Jest. Before each. So before each, yeah, simply is before each test. That's the meaning. Before each test we run. Before each test, before running, and before each test, if you run the first test, this function will be called before the first test. If you want to run the second test, it will be called before the second test. Okay, so say before each test, we say async. So this is an asynchronous function. So we call this asynchronous function, and then you say const module, which is a testing module, the one we just imported from nest.js/testing, is equal to await, and then we say test. This test also is imported from nest.js testing, and then we say create testing module. Test create testing module, and inside of this create testing module, we pass in the providers key. Have providers, and the providers here we take what are we testing? We're testing the node service like this, and then we see, okay, now we have the module, and then we see .compile. So we've set up this module. Now we say down here we see service. Now we reassign service. We say service is equal to module module get. Let's see, module get the node service. Node service, not node service. Node service like this. Okay, so module is okay, so what's this? Service. What's wrong with our service module get? Okay, get does not exist on type node module. This is not a node module. This is testing module. Okay, so this has to come in here. Okay, so now we're it's supposed to be inside here, not because this is and this is outside of this block, so it will not be able to access this module. Okay, so now before each test runs, we have to initialize this and then compile. Then we assign the service to module get, and this is just NestJS team and all of that. You can head over to their documentation, nestjs.com documentation. And then fundamentals, we have testing. Then we have all of this unicast controller. You can see how, okay, the configuration is not here. This one is just basically saying before each, I will come to see all of these things. Create testing module, controllers, providers. Then cat service module reference equal to get cat service. You're just initializing all the everything we need to test. Okay, so let's get over to this place. Okay, now that we've set up the basics. So let's write a basic test. Let's ensure the service is defined before we continue writing tests. So if you create a service or a controller, you basically see this. This is the test you see. Should be defined like this. Then you take in a function, callback. So this callback, we expect service to be defined. Okay, so now we say npm run test. Let's wait for just to run and okay. Okay, I guess we should just come over here. One test is passing. Where am I actually? Okay, no. Let's navigate to CD. And this one is 10 nest. Okay, so now we are in this directory. Let's run the test once more. npm run test. So we should get the expected result now. As you can see, Vitest is faster than Jest. Jest will take a little longer to run. 10 seconds and it's still running. Okay, we have 3 failed tests. App service, app controller spec. Where is the app? Okay, let's remove all of these files to ensure node controller spec. And what else? Node service spec. Okay. You can even remove this node E to E spec. Yes, so we Okay, so now let's run this test once more and then have our test pass. Okay, so we have should be defined node service, or we can say, okay, this is the test block, the node service test block. We have one test inside. We have test suite. This is a test suite. This describe here is a test suite, and then we have one test inside. So this we have one test suite, and then we have one test inside that is passing. So this is defined. This node service is defined. And if you come over to node service here, and then basically do something like this, and then run this test once more. Okay, so the test now is failing. It has no exported member, did that, so it's okay. We don't have this. It is no longer defined. So we're getting an error and the test is failing. Okay, so moving on, we test some things as well. Let's check the nodes service. We have create node, get nodes, and we also get a note. But in here we have get nodes and create nodes. Okay, so let's test the two services that we have. So let's head over to service. Which one should we test first? We have the get node service. So we say it, and then should return an array of nodes like this. Then we pass in a callback function. So this is where we write our test. So basically we'll say, okay, so we say expect, we expect service dot get nodes. This is a function, so you call it, then you say dot to be. So when you visit, when you call this service dot get nodes, what do you expect? So you expect an array of nodes. So without wasting time, let's come over to the service here and then copy this array, because this is the array we're expecting. Let's copy this array and bring it over and then drop it inside this 2b. Okay, so when you call service or get nodes, this is the get node function. It will return this array of nodes. So when the user make a request to the service get nodes, this is what will be returned. So we are making sure that it is working as expected. Now, if you come over here and run your test, npm run test. Okay, we have one test suite, and one test suite is failing. We have one failed test and one passed test. Okay, so we are using to be, and it's saying, okay, serializes to the same string. Okay, so it expected this, and then should return. Now we have inside of this test suite node service, we have should be defined. This one is passing and it took 16 milliseconds to run, and then we have should return an array of nodes, which is failing. So we are using to be, and then it's failing because it's not to be, it's to equal. Okay, we're using the wrong assertion method here, not to equal, because when we call this function, we're expecting what it will return to equal this array. Okay, so let's run this test once more. Okay, and the more reason why I like by test we just poof and it's done. Okay, so now we have one test suite and then we have two passing tests, because when you make we call this function get nodes, it will return this array, and this is what we are expecting. So our test is basically passing. Okay, so what other, okay, we have create nodes. Okay, now how do we create a node? Okay, so let's write a test for this. we say it, and then we say should create a node. This is the test description, and then this is the test callback. And if you take a look at this function, if you hover over it, you see that you have the name string, then it's create a test closure. So the name of your test, the function for your test, and then the timeout for an async function test. But we don't need any timeout. If you need any timeout, you can come over here and right below here, you can say, and then you can pass in a timeout. The timeout maybe you can say 3,000. After 3,000 milliseconds, I mean, after 3 seconds, if the test is not done running, it should. Okay, Timothy, your question is, for a negative scenario, will it pass or fail? Okay, basically, our app, this is called, don't worry, for now, we're just, I'm just trying to introduce to you and then make you understand how tests work and how we run tests. So basically, this is what we're expecting because this is the only array we have here. So this is what we're expecting this function to return when we make a request, when we call it. But when you start using, we start testing our Prisma application probably on Friday. So that is where mocking and stubbing comes in. You don't have to actually make use of the actual database. You have to mock it. You have to write functions and then objects that would behave like you are fetching data from a database or you are using the Prisma functions to get the actual data from the database. But for now, let's just understand what tests are. With these simple examples, it will everything will be clarified. And then in our next class, we'll start doing something more complex. So with this, you get to understand everything. So now we want to create a note. So in order not to waste time, we will say, okay, how do we create a note? So we call the create note function. We say expect service. This service has a create note function, create note. And then when we call a create note function, we will pass in a note. Okay, let me just quickly come over here, copy this one, bring it over here, and then paste it. Okay, here I will change this ID to 3 to avoid duplicate IDs, and then change this one to third, change this one also to third, like this. Okay, so now that we have a note to create, now they say dot to equal our expect function here, we say dot to equal 3. Okay, used when you want to check that two objects have the same value. This method recursively checks the equality of all fields rather than checking for object identity. So optionally, you can provide a type for the expected value via a generic, okay, via a generic, like TypeScript generic. So this is particularly useful for ensuring expected objects have the right structure. Okay, so now let's run our test. npm run test. Okay, this is failing. And here we're seeing expected 3 and got undefined. So why are we getting undefined? Okay, service creates note with this. Received undefined. Oops, oops, oops. Okay, so what's wrong? So service create notes with this object that equal 3. Okay, so after creating these nodes, our objects, we have three nodes. So now we're getting this error, and I don't know why. And here it is saying expected 3, received undefined. Okay, or let's say, and do something like that to have this won't work because basically we're checking for the length of that, and we don't even have the array. It shouldn't be dot to have length, but then to have not length. Okay, so after create, we can mock this function, actually create a node and then spy on the function and then check the length of the array. But then that is not what we want. We actually just want to do this directly. We actually want to do it directly. And why is it failing? Received undefined, and it's expecting 3. Received, expect, create nodes. Okay, the node service. Okay, let's see. Return. Run test. Great. Okay, so we're expecting this to return the array, to return the array, and this time around the array to have the length of 3. But in here, we are just creating it, creating the node without returning it. So after you push the node to the array, then you return the array. So we just want to simply test it like that to make things simple. So here, after creating this node, it will return the array, and then we're checking that the array has 3 items inside. And if you change this to 2, then you get an error. If you run this, you will get an error. Okay, so expected 2. We're expecting 2, but then we received 3. Okay, so now if we change it to 3, our test will pass. So this is basically, and testing has to do with your way of reasoning as well. You have to actually know what you are testing. Because if you don't know what you're testing, I'm sorry, you won't be able to even test what you think you are testing. Now, if you come over to your node service and then you remove this, or let's say you don't remove it and you comment it out, and then you run your test once more. And then your test will fail. And here you see that it received 2. It expected 3, but received 2. Now, if you come over here and change it to 2, the test will pass. Reason why is because we have 1 item in this array, and then we are adding 1 here in our test. So if you add this 1, the items in the array will become 2. Oops, what's happening? Received, expected -5, received 0. Should return an array of nodes. Okay, and in here, since we commented that out, we have to come here and then comment this out as well, and then run our test. So basically what we are doing here, we are testing implementation details, and any changes to our array of nodes, our test will fail. So once I make this change, I will have to go over there and make the change as well. And this is not good. And then we'll look at this in our next class where we start testing using Prisma, mocking and stubbing Prisma. We don't want to test implementation details. We just want to write our test so that if there's any changes anywhere, our test will still pass. Okay, so this is basically it for the service. We've tested the two services that we have, and then our test is passing, should be defined, and our service here is defined, should return an array of nodes, and it's returning this. Okay, and should also what? Should create a node, and it's also creating a node. Okay, so this is basically it for the service. And moving on, we'll also touch the controllers. Let's also test the controller and see what we've got here. So we create another file, and inside of this node, we create a file of node controller spec TS like this. So inside of this node controller spec TS, we need the controller and the service, because the node controller depends on the service, but the service here, the service and this service class, actually this node service depends on no other dependency. I mean, no other module or no other class. This class depends on no other class, but this node controller class depends on this node service. So we are injecting it here and then using it. So in our test also, we have to take care of that. So first of all, we have to import node controller from the node controller file. And we also import node service, because the node controller depends on the node service, and that's where dependency injection comes in. So we import the node service from the node service file. And then what do we do? Then we start a test suite. We say describe, and this test suite takes say node controller like this. So then this is our test function, which is a callback function to the describe function. And then in here, we say let node controller, which is of the node controller class, node controller class like this. And then we also have let node service, which is of node service. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to say before each test runs, we want to actually create an instance. We want to actually create instances of these classes. That is instance of a node service and an instance of the node controller. So basically we'll see, okay, node controller is equal to new node controller like this, as well as a node service is equal to new node service. We are creating an instance of this, what is this? Okay, it's before each. I actually mentioned it, but did not write it. I thought I wrote it before each test. It should be a callback. And inside of this callback, this is where we define what we want to define. Node controller, what is this saying? Expected one argument, but got 0 arguments. Okay, because we are injecting the node service in the node controller, we are getting this one. So let's move this up here and then pass the node service inside of the node controller, and then the error will go away. Yes, basically we are not testing the node service, but the node controller depends on the node service, so we have to inject it even in the test. So now we are done with this. So what do we do next? So we have now we define test suite inside of other test suites. So inside of this test suite, this node controller, we have another test suite. Let's say describe And what should we call this? We would say, okay, let's call it get notes. And this is the test description, and then we'll take a callback function of to get notes. Okay, in here we'll say, okay, it should return, what is this? An array of notes. Okay, so let's do it with this one here, and then make this a string. To return an array of notes. So this will also take a callback function, which is a test function. And then inside of this callback, what do we want to do? Okay, we say the array of notes we want to return, we say const. Let's say note is equal to, and then let's come over here and then copy this array of notes. Copy this and then bring it over to the notes controller. Like this. So we now have an array of notes. So what we want to do is we want to spy. We want to spy on the node service. So we'll say just, and then spy. Just has other functions. We have mock, spy on fn, use fake timers, set timer, advanced timer, spy time, and all of that. So just spy on. So which class do you want to spy on? We want to spy on the node service. Okay, so which function do we want to spy on exactly on the node service? We want to spy on the get, and as you can see, we have an auto completion here. We have the get nodes. We want to spy on the get nodes. So anytime the get node gets called, we want to mock implementation. Not here, outside, dot mock implementation. And then inside here, we want to just ensure it is returning the nodes. Okay, what this function is basically doing is this. So we are spying on this node service and specifically this get node method. So anytime this get node method, we want to check, is it returning this node? Is this node here, is it what is returning? And if you have something different from that, we'll get an error. Okay, so now we'll expect, we just come over here. Let's say expect node controller dot get node. This is a function, and then we'll say dot, okay, dot to be node. Now, if you check the nodes controller here, get nodes here is basically returning the array of nodes from the service. So when you come over to the test, you check, you want to make sure it's returning the array of nodes. So you call this, you expect it to be this node. Basically, we are just spying on it, and then we'll make sure that it's returning this node. This has nothing to do with this, what is here. We're basically implementing the implementation. We're mocking the implementation of this method here. This is the implementation of the method, but it has nothing to do with this. Now, when you call this, you are expected to return an array of nodes. So we make sure that, okay, this is what it is returning, the node. So if you run our test, let's run it and then npm run test. Okay, so our test is passing. Okay, now come over here and then remove this. Okay, let's say comment it out. Then run the test once more, npm run test. Okay, it is still passing. Okay, that's basically it. And then this is how you will know that this implementation here has nothing to do with what is here, because we are basically mocking the actual implementation of this method. This is the implementation of the method, but here we are mocking it. Now, if you define, let's say we have node 1, and we have another node 2, let's say node 2. And then let's comment this one out. Let's change this one here to node 1 and change this one to node 2. And then run this, run our test once more. Our test will fail simply because this is what this node 1 is what our function get node is returning, but then this node 2 is what we are expecting to get. But we're getting something different. We're getting this node 1. But if you comment this out, now it will become something, it will become the same thing. Then if you run the test, you will see that, okay, it's failing. And what is the reason? Okay, different names. Let's just make it nodes, and then remove this one here. Remove this one as well. Okay, so now that we have the same array, if you run our test will pass. Okay, so our test is now passing. Now, if you come over here, we can see we have 2 test suits, and we have four tests. We have 1 test here, and then we have 3 tests here. Node service spec. We have 1, 2, and 3, and in here we have only 1, making it 4. Okay, so moving on, we also test the get single, like get node. Let's check if we have the method get node. Okay, let's just finish the implementation here. Return this service, node service, get, okay, get node, and then we pass in the ID. But we don't have that here in the node service. Okay, let's just copy this sharply, bring it down here, paste it, and then change this one to get nodes, and then we say ID, which is let's say a number. Say return this dot nodes dot find, and then we pass in function. We say node, say node dot ID is exactly equal to the ID being passed in. So we can change this to a number. If at all it's a string, then we say ID like this. Okay. This is basically the implementation. We find a single node with the ID being passed in. So we'll come over here and then say, okay, type of string. Let's change this one to a number, since that is also a number. And our implementation is complete. Okay, so now going back to the nodes controller spec, we have this, and then it's time to test our get node. Okay, now we say it should return, let's say, a single node or a node like this. We'll pass in a callback function. And basically we say const result, or we say const node. Const node is equal to this. This is just a single node. Then we spy on the function as well. Let's just grab this one here. We mock the implementation without having to worry about what actually is going on. And this time around, we say note, let's note like this. Change this one to get notes, and we're good to go. And then if you change it to get notes, you get an error. This is expected to return an array, the get notes, and not just an object. So if you change this one to get notes, and then TypeScript will be happy with you. So now that we've marked this, we say expect node service dot get nodes, and then we pass in, let's say we pass in an ID of 1. And then we say dot to be note. Okay, now let's run our test, npm run test. And it's passing. Yes, it's passing because this is what we want. Okay, let's pass in an ID of 2. Okay, it's also passing because we're just mocking the implementation. We're mocking the implementation here. So it doesn't matter which ID you put. The only thing here is that once we pass in an ID, we are getting a note back with a given ID. But this is actually not, what if we have more than one note in an array? We're just specifying an object here. What if you have an array with different nodes? Don't worry, we'll talk about that when we start testing Prisma, mocking and stubbing Prisma. But this is basically it. Okay, so now that in our node service, we tested create nodes and get nodes. In our node controllers, we've tested get nodes and get nodes. Okay, we can even change this to get nodes like this. Okay, you can just change it to get nodes like this. And if you run your test, to still pass. I'm just marking. You can check on the jest functions. Even vitest, all of these functions are basically the same. If you check the vitest docs, it has pi on and the rest. And if you check, we use that in our KC notes, source tests, and load env tests. Spy on. Okay, we spied on the fs function and basically the read file sync, the fs object, and importantly the read file sync, and we mocked the return value. For this one, we mocked the return value, which is the env mock. But in jest, we're doing something slightly different. We're mocking the implementation. And as you can see, we have a callback function that returns the notes. So when you call this, we're expected to return the notes, an array of notes. Okay, so now that we've shown how we can test, we can run unit tests on the service and controllers. Let's run E to E test. Let's create node E to E spec TS. And how do we run end-to-end test? Okay, this is as simple as what we've already done. We simply need to import the needed modules and then carry on. We have the test, but this time around we need the super test, the request from super test, the package I showed you earlier. It's already installed. Everything is already prepared for us. So we have import test from NodeJs testing. We also have app module, because this is an end-to-end test. So we need this app module right here. This one, we need it because it's an end-to-end testing. So we have import app module like this. And we need super test. Import everything as super test as a request. As a request from super test, not super agent, super test, like this. Okay, so now that we have these three things, we'll just come over here and then we say describe notes. This is a test suite, and then we pass in a callback. And inside of this test function, we'll say let app. And you can leave this like this, but if you hover over it, we have two errors. The first one is a warning. Variable app implicitly has any type and blah blah blah. So we can just see iNext application like this, and then the error will go away. The only error we have now is declared but not used. Okay, so this iNext application is coming from, yeah, I think something is Nest/Nest.js common, like that. Okay, so now we have to set up our test. We say before all. This one is an async callback. Before all, what do we want to do? We'll say const module. What we initially did the first time. But this time, if you check the node service spec TS, we have this thing here, create test module. Okay, let's just copy this one, bring it over to E2E, and then just paste it over here. But this time around, it is okay. Testing module, we also need this one. And then in here, we see we have the app module. Okay, let's just do something like Command F. Anywhere there's a node module, replace it with app module like this. And then make the changes to the whole of the app. The node, okay, node service. Change it to app module. Okay, so now we're good to go. No more errors. And we can say app. This is no longer a service. It's the whole application we're testing. It's an end-to-end test. Then we say app is equal to. If you hover over this, app module is missing the following properties from it, which is used in the book calls listen. Okay. Okay, so what else do we need? And then we say await. We want to initialize the app init like this. This we are starting our application. And before that, we have compiled it, but we need to start. We also create the application. So here, this is not, we're not getting the app module, we are creating the app. That's the reason why we're getting this error. This is different, not getting the app, getting the module, we're creating the module, create next application like this. And now we have no errors. Okay, so here we are, before all the tests, before any test will start, we import the app module. You know, the app module is the best module that the application uses. So this is an end-to-end test, so we have to use it. Then the provider says app module, and then we compile the module. Then the module will create a next application. Creating a next application is basically preparing everything and then running npm dev or something like that behind the scene, and then await app init. So now our app will start. So once our app starts, we are good to run our test. So we'll come here and then we say it. Say here we say note. When you make a request to the note route, this one is a get request. Do something like this. And you pass in a callback. And inside of this callback, you see, okay, what do you want to say? Return a request. This is coming from where? Okay, this is not a request, it's a request. Okay, return request. like this, and then you pass in the app, then you say get HTTP server. You get the HTTP server that is powering the app. And then what you get after getting the app, you say dot get. This is a get route. It says slash notes. You make a request to the index route, which is slash notes, and then you expect the response. Expect the response to be 200. And not only that, you also expect. You can change the assertion method. And then you say dot expect, and let's come over here and basically copy this. You also expect the array of nodes returned to equal to be this one. Okay, so remove this. Okay, and then we are good to go. So you expect the arrays returned to be this, like this. So this is great. Now let's try to run our test. npm run test. So our app will first of all start under the hood. When you're setting this by yourself, you have to write something that, okay, when you do this, your app will start and then the test will run. Okay, well, you're having an error, app module. Okay, so this app module, finding it difficult to resolve this. Okay, so let's run this test once more. npm run test. And it should pass, I guess. Oops, it's still failing. And okay, expected 200. Okay, but got 404 not found. Okay, so let's look at our notes controller. Get notes, notes, get notes. Okay. So why is it not found? Slash notes to get expect 200. Okay, so let's just use this advantage to test this before we even continue. 404 is not found, right? Okay, let's change it to 404 now that we are getting this error. And then if you run this test, it will fail because 404, and then we should also expect the text to be not found, but we're expecting an array. It will still fail. Okay, and this time around, okay, we're expecting this, but then what we are supposed to expect is not found, status code 404. Okay, so let's change this to 200 and see the reason, see why we are getting a 404. Why are we getting a 404? Request app get server. And then we make a request to the index route, which is slash notes. If you come over to the controller, say we have notes. And it's a get request. It's returning an array of notes. Okay, let's say npm run start dev. We started the application. Let's check out Postman. Okay, let's change this to suppose 3000 slash notes. Change this one to get request and then make this request. Okay, we're having a 200 here. The status code of okay and status text of status code of 200 and status text of okay. So why is our test failing and then giving us something else? Okay, let's check our note. Get note, expect 200, expect this. Okay, so this is weird. Basically, maybe the mistake maybe from me. And okay, let's just complete the implementation here. And then after running all our tests, our server should close async. We'll close our app. Await app close. Okay. Not really. If we're not using to be equal, we're not supposed to get this error from here. It should be from here, but we're getting that the status code we're getting is 404 not found. Okay, so in the node service, we have this in the node service, and the get note is returning this dot note. And if you use postman, you see that okay, we are returning this note, but then in the E2E spec here, let's stop the app, npm run tests again and see. Okay, it's still failing. And as you can see, this is the error. Expected 200, okay, but got 404 not found. Okay, let me remove this / and then make this request once more. Invalid URL this time around. /notes. Okay. Yes. Request app get HTTP server and then make a request to get the notes and then expect 200, expect the notes to be this. Yes. So why is it failing? Why is it saying 404? Okay. This is weird. Completely weird. Weird. And oops, our tests. This is an iNest application interface running the CodeNest application object. Let me do away with this. Run the test. Okay. Okay, for this to be getting a 404 not found, that means there's something wrong somewhere. Export node service. providers, node service controllers. Okay, so now if this phase will move on, I don't know what's wrong. I can't figure out anything here. What's wrong? What is wrong? Get notes. Yes, this is the route. Get notes. Okay. Let's just say, let's get a note by ID and then expect a note to be this. Okay, now we are getting a note by ID. Then we're expecting a note, the first note to be this. Let's run the test again. And wow, expected 200, okay, but got 404 not found. Wow, this is weird. I can't seem to figure out, or is there any mistakes? Note module. In our note module, we have and in the app module is intact as well. The app module, we have the notes module here imported correctly. Okay, so in order not to waste time, I think we figure this out in our next class, because I can't seem to understand what's happening here. Now we're getting these random errors. Test. I can't seem to understand. Okay, let me see. I see. Let me see. Response is equal to await. Then we'll come over here and say return response. And let's see what we've got. Okay, it's still failing. Okay, so at this point, let's just try to figure it out. And then in our next class, we'll say something about it. Because this is an end-to-end test. And if it's failing, it therefore means our application is faulty. And there's something wrong with it, because Postman is giving us the result, but our test is failing. And our test here seems to be correct, but then our application is failing. Okay, so that's basically something we try to figure out. Okay, so in today's class, we try to test our app. And our next app, the basic one we built with We apply some unit tests and some end-to-end tests, but end-to-end test is failing, and I don't know why, but we figure it out before or in our next class. And also in our next class, we thoroughly test our next Casey Notes application. And in that one, we'll be testing all the routes and all the services and controllers as well. We run unit tests on all the routes, all the services and controllers, and end-to-end test as well to test all the routes. So prepare, sit back, and tighten up, fasten your seat belts. If you are not sitting, you should fasten your stand belts. That's basically it for today's class. We are moving gradually, and everything you're learning and everything you will know and everything you will learn depends on you. Depending on how regular you practice. My work is to, I can't teach you everything in depth. My work is to introduce you to certain concepts. There are some things that we can't just cover here, so I'm introducing you to them so you can go ahead and basically learn them on your own. So for today, Toby, I believe you don't have any questions. If you have any, you can go ahead and ask.